all work. Let's all work together. Let's all work. Let's all work together. Let's all work.
All right, and welcome everybody to this practice session of Pros on Demand, and it's good to see everybody here today, and Coach David Vaughn, and so glad to see you. How you doing, David?
Good. How are you, Michael?
Good. We are going to talk about insurance coverages, not per se about the insurance coverage itself today, but we're going to kind of dive into the claims side of insurance coverage. And of course, you are our middle market guru, commercial surety, and oil and gas, construction, manufacturing, all those types of insurance coverages you've been a part of for many, many years. And so to have the kind of expertise that is part of one team is certainly a valuable thing. And talking about the claims component today, David, I know over the years you have seen a lot of things that have happened, probably some unusual things that have happened in the course of your career. And we're going to kind of, let's explore that just a little bit. And you may have a few stories to kind of share and elaborate on a little bit about that. But tell us how important the claims process is in your business and with how you deal with your clients and the service that you provide.
I think that, well, first of all, let me say thanks for having me today. I appreciate it very much. This is a very important topic that is not often discussed with customers in the process of them purchasing insurance from an agent. But to me, it's always been one of the more important things that we do, primarily because I've always expected that when we make a sale, that we're a full service agency, that we follow through. The deal is between me and my customer. And so during any time of loss, whether it's a windstorm, rising water, fire, car accident, oil well blowout, workers' compensation, fatality, it doesn't matter what it is, that I'm there for the client 24/7.
Yeah.
I always have taken the approach that I want to treat our customer, the way that I would want to be treated by someone else in a similar situation. So much of what we do is at that time is to bring, some comfort, some reassurance, to the customer. At probably one of the worst days in either their business career or their personal life.
Yeah.
And so having said that, it's a very important part of what we do. I think this is one of the things that differentiates an independent agent from a captive agent, such as State Farm, Farmers, and the Shelter, the others that are captive agents. They actually work for the company. The agent is an employee, just as the claims adjuster is an employee of State Farm. So if there's a discrepancy in the claim handling, it's not correct, there's not a lot the agent can do. On our end, as an independent agent, we can get involved because we're not an employee. We are an advocate for our customer, and that's where we come in. And
and one of the things that I think is kind of significant in this process, because I've had an insurance background as well too, and I started out as a captive agent, and then transitioned to independent. But either way, it seems like everybody is always, when somebody starts out in their career, they're always focused on production, how to make the sale, and sometimes, I know with a lot of our coaches and what we do, we have a real passion for helping others. But I think maybe that's overlooked a lot in the initial career of a lot of people when they're focused on the numbers driven by production. And I know your background is a little bit different because we've talked about this, and really the education that you got from the claims perspective, and that kind of sheds a whole different light and a whole different direction on kind of where you've ended up in your career.
Mm, correct. Yeah. I was one of the weird ones that when I was at Oklahoma State, I can't really remember exactly what it was, other than thinking that insurance was a career path that everyone, everyone needs insurance. And that was quickly found after I thought I wanted to go into geology, and then the oil boom hit, and I went, not everybody needs those guys now. So, but I did. I really had a passion to go into the insurance industry, and out of college, I was hired by what is now, it was the Aetna Life and Casualty, which had been sold off to Travelers, and I think they have their benefits division is still around. But they at the time, Aetna was truly invested in education and educating their underwriters, and I took a job as a casualty underwriter. And when you came on as an underwriter, a new one, they sent you back to Hartford. The first time you go back is for 8 weeks. Second time I went back was for 14 weeks. And, I remember making a whopping $14,100 my first year, which was just out of sight. I thought that was big, tall cotton money.
Yeah.
But now the important thing, though, was, from my perspective, was the education as an underwriter, and knowing policy language, knowing the terms and conditions, how policies applied. Intent is a lot of it. And so having that experience, that education background, and then being connected with your claims department as an underwriter, oftentimes we would sit down and have conferences over different claims. That became very important for me as a jump start into becoming an agent. So when I went over to the independent agency side, I had a much more clear, broader understanding of what these policies were all about, as opposed to someone who just happens to join a company and thinks they want to be an insurance agent, that really didn't have that training, that background, et cetera. And over 35 years, it's proven to be very helpful for customers, for myself and the clients.
Yeah. Give us maybe kind of an example or something that you could share with us where being that claims advocate was really a difference maker for somebody, in something that happened to them. Can you kind of share with us maybe something that comes to mind?
I can give you two quick examples. One is a customer of mine. The round numbers, I think the home was a $500,000 house, and he had been invaded by armadillos. And unfortunately, these armadillos burrowed under the far corner of his bedroom in his home, which was causing structural damage to the house, as you can imagine, and submitted the claim to the carrier. And the carrier didn't take them long at all to come back and say, no, we're sorry, we're denying this claim, that armadillos are vermin, and vermin's excluded in the policy. Didn't take me long to send them a reply back that says, well, by definition, a armadillo is a mammal. Mammals aren't excluded in the homeowner's policy. I think you're on the hook for this one.
Wow.
So $42,000 later, the insured had his bedroom joisted, put back up together, and he was a happy camper.
Wow. All because of that language
instance,
and the difference there between a mammal and vermin. Really?
Exactly. Right.
Wow.
And another thing that's probably more relevant to a lot of our listeners now, I had an instance, I think I shared this with you once before, and I'll be quick about it, was there's a company down here on Detroit, and about 6th in Detroit, or no, 8th, 9th, and 10th Detroit. And back when they were putting in the Broken Arrow Expressway, the loop, the interchange in that area, you can imagine all the construction, all the berming that was going on. There was no grass. It was all topsoil, just ready to go. We had the big flood back in 81, I think it was, something like that. Well, this came about probably 8 or 9 years later, when I went and I met with this customer for the first time, and we were discussing a situation that they had where they had 6 feet, 7 feet of water in this building, in their machine shop. And of course, their machines were just totally destroyed, and everything in the building. And as we were talking, she said, well, I did turn the claim in to my agent, or I talked to my agent about it, and the agent just said, no, I'm sorry that was flood. It's excluded, without ever turning in the claim to the carrier. And I said, well, by chance, do you still have the policies? Yes, she did, ironically. And, they were the old, dried out, hung up on the clothesline type of looking policy. So I took it from her and I went back and I read through the policy. And I called the insurance carrier who denied the claim. And I said, look, here's the problem. I said, this really wasn't submitted to you all because the agent flat out said, well, flood coverage is not covered under the policy. And I said, this clearly is not flood. By definition, flood is when the water exceeds the intended embankment or confinement that it's intended to be held, and then it overflows like a lake or a river. This wasn't the case. This was a matter of where so much rain came down the slopes there down there by on Detroit, and there was so much water that the intended collection basin, sewers, drains couldn't take it away. So what you had was what is called water backup. And that was the case. Well, at the time, water backup was not an excluded peril in the policy, and it was intended to be covered, and that's exactly what it was. So water surface runoff is really the term. And I brought this up to the carrier's attention, and I said, look, had this been handled properly, the agent known the terms and definitions of what they're talking about, they would have turned this into you, and it would have been a covered claim back 8 or 9 years ago. Realizing the statutes were up, I said, I really think you need to do the right thing here, or there's possible litigation that this potential new customer is going to go back. They talked about it for a couple of days, and they came back and said, okay, well, we have a check for, I think it was $82,000. And that they said, come by, pick up the check, and we'll have it ready for you. So just knowing the difference between flood and water surface runoff, unfortunately nowadays, the water surface runoff is included in most exclusions for, which is in there with flood as well. But that's just an instance where, as you and I spoke before, in our business, price is price is price. Most carriers are going to be very close to one another in pricing. Otherwise, there's going to be terrible adverse selection. So to be successful and to do what you're supposed to do as an agent for your customers, to be professional in what you do, is knowledge and education, is to know what you're selling. Don't just go out and throw a product to a client for commission dollars, but actually know what you're selling and stay involved with your client so that at those times when that happens, you can reassure them, we're okay. You're going to be okay. It's bad today, but tomorrow we're going to get you back going.
Yeah. Well, and I think, that's so important in that relationship, is building that, because when something happens, how devastating it may be, whether it's maybe small to us, but it may be pretty significant in a lot of ways to them, but just to know that they've got somebody there that can pick up the phone, make a phone call. A lot of times in the midst of an incident or an accident or whatever it may be, a lot of times the head's not right with everybody. So they need somebody that's got some kind of their scruples together, so to speak, everything together that can kind of guide them through that process. So that becomes a very important part of the process when you're dealing with that, and extends the relationship too with your client.
I think it builds a great relationship or rapport with your client, and as you and I spoke before, that it's kind of a double-edged sword in our business from the standpoint of the more claims that you have experienced in your career, the more opportunity you have to learn from those experiences. The other side of that sword is that you really don't want to have a lot of those claims under your belt. But if you've been in the business long enough and you write a large enough diversification of clients, you're bound to come across these things, and if you use them as a learning experience and a tool that you can draw upon down the road, whether it's 5-10 years later, you've been there, done that, and you have that experience, that knowledge that you can use for customers, later on. And And I think too, I'll say this is that one of the things that I think the insurance industry has really been, they've not done a good job is educating their agents and educating their claims representatives over the years. We have not done a very good job at that at all.
That's right.
And it's imperative that that you don't, as an agent, you don't just take the first word from the adjuster, whether it's a reservation of rights letter or it's a denial letter. You don't just take it and say, okay, well, it's been fun playing, thank you very much. That it's important that you look at it, read it, review it, and if it's correct, it's correct. If it's not, then go back and fight for your customer, so to speak, to make it right. And there's that professional relationship that one must maintain between an agent such as myself and the insurance carrier. And the greater that professional relationship and respect is, the better you'll be able to service your customer when the time comes, because you have that relationship with the insurance carrier. They know you, they respect you, and the feeling is mutual. So that goes a long way too, especially in times when there's a gray line, when there's a gray area that it could go either way, but because of the relationships, they will find it favorably for you and for your insured.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. I mean, there's just a lot of things that go into the whole insurance picture and components. Obviously, claims is a big part of that, and I appreciate you kind of shedding some light on that and the importance of you as the agent being the claims advocate for our clients out there.
Let go.